After my husband's funeral, SIL demanded my home. What I discovered left me heartbroken. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with grief as I stood by his grave. My knees trembled, and I fought to hold back the flood of tears that threatened to spill. My husband, my rock, was gone. The silence around me was deafening. Only the whisper of the wind danced through the trees, mocking my pain. As I turned to leave, I saw Hermie's sister-in-law, Sarah. Her eyes were cold, void of compassion. "I need to speak to you," she said, her voice sharp and commanding. I felt a chill run down my spine. My heart raced. What could she possibly want now? Months of life together had built a bond that now lay shattered. We had laughed, shared secrets, raised children. The warmth of those memories clashed with the icy glare she shot my way. "It's about the house," she spat, her hands clenched at her sides. That I stumbled backward, all the air leaving my lungs. How could she think of property now? Grief wrapped itself around me, choking me. "You can't be serious," I whispered, disbelief clawing at my heart. Yet, the determined look in her eyes told me she was. That house, our home, held every cherished moment. The scent of his cologne lingered in every corner. The laughter of our children echoed through the hallways. It wasn't just walls and a roof. It was our sanctuary, our love. Yet, here was Sarah, demanding it as if it was just a piece of furniture. A shudder ran through me as I remembered our last quarrel over how I hung the curtains. "Not like that," he'd laughed, pulling them down and hanging them again just to see my eyes roll in playful exasperation. It felt like yesterday. But now that laughter rang hollow in my ears. Suddenly, Sarah's voice broke through my memories. "It's only fair, Ella. You can't keep it all to yourself." Fair. The word hung in the air like a ghost. A part of me wanted to lash out, to scream that fairness had abandoned us the day he left this world. "This isn't just about the house," I said, my voice trembling yet fierce. She stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "It's about family, your attachment to things that don't matter," she said with a venom that cut deep. I was frozen, my heart pounding in erratic bursts. Was she really so heartless? The pain coursed through me like ice. I turned away, desperate to collect my thoughts, but her presence loomed heavily, a storm cloud over my head. Minutes stretched into eternity as we stood there, both unwilling to relent. My mind raced. I thought of everything I lost. But then I felt something, a flutter of hope, or maybe just foolishness. What if I started, heart pounding louder than before? What if I gave her what she wanted? What if I let go? Would that ease my ache? The words hung between us, thick with possibility. Her eyes widened, anticipation flickering within them. But just as suddenly, doubt twisted within my stomach. What lay beneath the surface of her intentions? What if what, Ella? She pressed, a smile creeping onto her lips that sent shivers down my spine. A scream echoed through my mind, drowning out the answers I was desperate to find. What had I stumbled into? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The autumn leaves crunched beneath my feet as I stepped away from the grave. Each step felt like a betrayal, as if walking further away from him was equivalent to letting go of the only tether I had left in the world. I wrapped my arms around myself, wishing the chill in the air could vanish, just as my heart seemed to have done. Sarah's presence grounded me, holding the weight of our confrontation in the stagnant air between us, heavy and suffocating. I couldn't comprehend the fractured family dynamic threatening to engulf me. "What if you got your wish?" I murmured, barely above a whisper. "What if I just let you take it?" Her expression flickered, surprise breaking through the cold facade. But just as quickly, that glimmer faded, replaced by a calculating gaze. "If you really think that would settle things, then maybe you're more naive than I thought." Anger surged within me, igniting the small embers of hope I dared to entertain. Who was she to talk down to me about naivety? Hadn't I understood the compassionate intentions behind our shared laughter and hugs, only to have them turn to ash in the vacuum of loss? "You want the house, but what about our memories?" I challenged, my voice shaking but unwavering. She smirked, a cruel delight dancing across her features. Memories? They don't have any weight in this world, Ella. The past isn't going to feed you, keep you warm. You need to be practical. It was a mantra many had preached to me since the funeral. I should move on, sell the house, start anew. Yet, the thought of moving forward without him gnawed at my insides like a relentless tide. Each corner of that home was filled with the echoes of his laughter, the touch of his hand warming my heart. Memories weren't weightless, they were the foundation of my grief, and a moment of reckless defiance. I met her gaze directly. I won't let you bulldoze over me just because you're greedy. Something shifted in her demeanor then. Her smile faltered just for a moment, and her defenses dropped. Greedy? She repeated, a hint of disbelief lacing her tone. I'm trying to be rational. The wind rustled the dying leaves overhead, creating a melody of sorrow that reverberated through the air. As I looked at her, the bitterness dissipated just briefly. For a fleeting second I saw a person, a woman grieving a brother lost too soon. But that was quickly swallowed by the darkness that had taken root in her heart. Maybe this isn't just about the house for you either, I said softly, the words spilling from me before I could call them back. You lost someone too. It felt like a gamble, exposing vulnerability in a situation so riddled with hurt. In response, her expression morphed into something I hadn't anticipated. A flicker of uncertainty, perhaps regret, passing fleetingly across her features. Don't you dare pretend to understand my pain, she snapped, quickly reverting to the hardened version of herself. My pulse quickened. I had touched a nerve, but it only added to the whirlwind of emotions swirling around me. Pain and loss are universal, Sarah, I implored. You don't have to fight me. We can navigate this together if you'd stop seeing me as an enemy. For a moment, her eyes softened again, and within that brief moment, I grasped a hope that our shared grief could bind us instead of tearing us apart. But then she scowled and the barrier slammed shut. You think we're in this together? No, Ella. Everything I do is for the family. I will get what's fair. And just like that, the air turned heavy again. My heart sank. I knew I had walked into a battle I might never win. In the days following that confrontation, I struggled to find solace. Each room in the house felt like a prison haunted by a phantom. I rummaged through old photos, laughing at times while trapped in memories that tugged at my heartstrings. I hadn't realized how deep the attachments ran, each image a reminder of the life we had built together. Now splintered and on the verge of collapse, as an unexpected weight settled on my shoulders, I took a small step outside one evening. The sun dipped below the horizon in shades of gold and crimson, casting an ethereal glow over the yard. I couldn't help but be reminded of how my husband used to join me out here, promising to build the best stone path, one we'd walk down together for years to come. But tonight, as I inhaled the brisk evening air, I was struck with a curiosity, a sense of purpose awakening within me. What if I reached out to people outside this immediate turmoil? I needed a fresh perspective, someone untainted by our family's disgrace and drama. I clutched my phone, pondering who might listen. Perhaps I could share the story of my grief, find camaraderie with someone who understood the depth of loss. Just as I was about to dial a number, I caught a glimpse of movement at the edge of my vision. A figure emerged from the shadows and my heart raced. It was Sarah, standing there, silhouetted by the fading light. Ella, she started, her tone surprisingly soft. I know we've had our differences, but I froze mid-breath, uncertainty flooding my body. What could she want now? What new cocktail of emotions were about to spill forth? But more than that, a glaring question loomed. Was this another tactic in her quest to strip me of everything I loved? Or was it a flicker of the sisterhood I once thought we could reclaim? The last remnants of daylight slipped away, leaving the yard steeped in twilight, an atmosphere of impending revelations descending upon us. Sarah stood there, hesitant but resolute, her hands clasped tightly before her, the tension coiling around her like vines. I know we've had our differences, she repeated, the words trembling in her throat. I could see there was a storm raging beneath her surface, but I could also sense something softer, stubbornly yearning for connection, for understanding. Then why are you here? My voice, strained with residual anger, sliced through the silence. I fought against the urge to retreat, to close myself off from her like an armored shell. Because I don't want to lose, she paused, as if the admission clotted in her throat. I don't want to lose you. The admission lay bare between us, a fragile thread in a sea of bitterness. The wind sighed, compelling me to listen. I looked into her eyes, searching for the familiar anger that often flickered there but found only uncertainty and distress. "You don't even know what you're saying," I replied, my tone sharper than I intended. "No, I do." She took a tentative step forward, voice trembling as shadows danced across her face. "This family, it's falling apart. I thought holding on to the house would keep him with us, keep us connected. But you don't even know if that's true." It was my turn to be stunned into silence. I had never witnessed her vulnerability stripped bare like this. The walls she'd meticulously built were crumbling, revealing the raw grief beneath. "Sarah, I thought you wanted this house just to spite me," I admitted cautiously. "Maybe I did," she sniffed, pulling her arms around herself as if gathering strength. "But I also thought it was what he would have wanted, some way to preserve our history. I'm scared that if we part with it, we're just gone. All of us." For the first time I understood she was just as lost as I was. The house wasn't merely bricks and mortar for either of us. It was a monument to a love we couldn't fathom losing. "I feel the same way," I said softly. "Every room holds a piece of him. It's suffocating at times. But is fighting each other going to bring him back?" Her gaze flickered to the ground, the confession hanging painfully in the air between us. "I don't know how to process this grief or how to share it. I just want to feel like he's still alive somehow." The truth cut through the frantic chaos of our earlier encounters, exposing the fragile layer of grief binding our hearts. In that vulnerable moment, I felt something shift, almost imperceptibly, a kindred thread of shared mourning connecting us. "Maybe we can find a way to navigate this together," I proposed. "Instead of tearing each other down." A silence stretched, fraught with possibility. But then, as Sarah's gaze met mine, the moment fractured. "But what if you decide to throw everything away?" She choked. "What if you just the house? What if you sell it?" I can't," I replied, a wave of desperation washing over me. "But I need to find a way to breathe again. I need to explore what my future can look like with or without the house. Just like you." A storm began to brew in her eyes, the flicker of a resolve, closely shadowed by fear. At that moment it hit me. We were teetering on the brink of a precipice, our fragility laid bare, our grief interwoven, yet somehow still so far apart in our understanding of what the future should hold. But just when a soft understanding appeared on the horizon, a flicker of movement caught my eye in the distance. My heart sank as I turned, forcing myself to look. A car's headlights pierced through the darkness, illuminating the yard with a harsh glow. "Who?" I began, panic lacing my voice. From the vehicle a shadow stepped forward, and my breath caught in my throat. It was David, the family lawyer, his expression unreadable. "Ella." "Sarah," he called, his voice laced with urgency. "We need to talk." The moment shattered, the fragile connection we had nurtured exploding into fragments of fear and uncertainty. "What is it?" I asked, my heart racing as dread pooled in my stomach. "There are things I must discuss regarding your husband's will," he said, urgency barely masking the weight of the words. "Things you both need to know about the estate and about the house." A new set of questions unfurled like a dark cloud hovering over us. Our shared moment had been interrupted, but the intensity of the conversation lingered, unaddressed. "Couldn't this wait?" I managed to say, torn between the ill-timed interruption and the trepidation coursing through me. "No, it can't." The finality in his voice sent chills ringing through me, ominous and unwavering. I exchanged a glance with Sarah, and in that moment, the uncertainty morphed into dread. What did the lawyer know that we didn't? More importantly, how would that knowledge alter the painful decisions hanging precariously over us? As we both absorbed the weight of his words, I knew deep down that whatever was to come would reshape the fragile thread of sisterhood we had tentatively begun to weave together. And with that, the shadows of grief wrapped tighter around our hearts, setting us down a path we couldn't foresee, but would undoubtedly force us to confront the turmoil at the core of both our lives. The air grew thick around us, heavy with the weight of unspoken fears and looming uncertainty. David stood a few feet away, his presence a stark reminder of the cold realities awaiting us. The way he shifted his gaze from Sarah to me suggested he carried a burden beyond his formal demeanor. I steeled myself for the onslaught of revelations, my heart pounding with both dread and an ember of hope that perhaps the truth could set us free or bind us in deeper chains. That night, when the accident happened, "It wasn't just an accident," David said. his voice low and trembling slightly as the words escaped him like a confession he hadn't planned to make. A shiver danced up my spine, and I felt Sarah tense beside me, inching away as if afraid of the implications lying behind the lawyer's terse statement. "What do you mean?" I forced out, each syllable a declaration of my desperate need for comprehension. "That I can't discuss all the details here." But he hesitated, glancing at the house as if it might offer him some solace. "There are questions surrounding Paul's last few days. I believe it's crucial that you know he was." My breath caught, a wild cocktail of anguish and anger rising within me. "Was what?" I pressed, the stillness around us palpable. "He was involved in something," David said, his eyes darkening. "Something that suggested he was trying to protect you two from the truth." Sarah gasped, awareness dawning in her expression. "What are you talking about? Protect us from what?" The storm inside her was gaining strength, and I felt a familiar urge to placate her, to hold her close, even as my own heart threatened to splinter under the unknown. David hesitated again, pulling a letter from his coat pocket, its edges worn and creased as if it had been read countless times before. "This was addressed to you, Ella. It was meant to be delivered after his funeral, but he said the timing wasn't right." I didn't understand why, but now it seems clearer. The roots of anxiety dug deeper into my chest as I reached for the letter, trembling fingers deftly unsealing the envelope. What could be on those pages that had frightened him so completely? I could almost hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears, drowning out the soft rustle of leaves in the gathering dusk, drowning out Sarah's rising panic beside me. "You shouldn't," Sarah finally murmured, placing a protective hand over mine. But I was already drawn in, the words on the page swirling around in my mind, demanding attention, demanding voice. That I unfolded the letter, the faint scent of his cologne still emanating from it, memories rushing back like tidal waves. And as I began to read, the words unfurled tragedy from the depths of my heart. "If you're reading this, it means I am gone, but I need you to know that I was working on something important, something dangerous." As I lost myself in the lines, sweat beaded on my brow. I forced myself to sift through the tangled revelations, his unfulfilled promises, the veiled threats, a connection to a past I knew nothing about. The revelation building into an explosive crescendo. The sensation of gut-wrenching betrayal clawed at my insides. But alongside it was something else, something black and relentless. A flicker of hope. David remained silent, his eyes focused on me with an intensity that was both unnerving and kind. I could feel the heat radiating off Sarah, her anguish igniting new sparks of fear. I suddenly felt enclosed, as if the house itself was shifting, its walls closing in, full of dark corners echoing the consequences of decisions I didn't yet understand. "Ella?" Sarah's voice struggled to break through my reverie, desperation lacing her question. "What does it say?" I glanced up, the edges of my vision blurring with the weight of unprocessed emotion. "It doesn't make sense. He was involved with something that could ruin us." The truth slipped through my lips, cold but real, shattering our momentary truce like glass meeting stone. "Ruin us how?" Sarah's words fell like stones in a well, heavy and echoing back into an abyss of questions, and before I could formulate an answer, before I could pull us both back from the brink, David's voice broke through again, heavy with consequence. "I believe there are people who will do anything to prevent you from uncovering the truth. You must be careful." A wave of icy realization washed over me, washing away any facade of control I thought I had maintained. This was far more than just a family dispute over a house site. It was a maze of secrets, a labyrinth of danger ensnaring both our lives. The air crackled with tension, suffocating and inescapable. I felt the thread of our sisterhood strain under the weight of the truths being unveiled, each revelation pulling us further apart, even as we were desperately trying to connect. As I looked into Sarah's haunted eyes, I understood I was about to delve into darkness, and the fragility of our newfound alliance hung perilously in the balance. "What do we do now?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a breath, as if speaking too loudly might summon the shadows lingering just beyond our sight. All at once, my heart plummeted as a new thought struck me, a realization that hung between us like a ghost tethered to the past. "We have to figure out what he was hiding, and why it threatened our lives." "No," she murmured weakly, but her expression betrayed a growing flicker of resolve. And as I nodded, the weight of what lay ahead settled in, heavy and unyielding. Something deep inside me quaked, uncertainty clawing for purchase. But this was our story now, And the house would not win as long as we drew breath. The night yacht opened before us, an expanse of uncharted territory where grief intertwined with the reality of our choices. We stood on the cusp of gaining insight, but I felt the ground shifting underfoot. What we were about to uncover could either strengthen our bond or cleanse it entirely. With a final shattering glance at the darkness surrounding us, I sensed an undeniable truth: this journey was just beginning, and the path ahead was fraught with more than just grief. It was layered with danger, secrets, and the haunting question of whether we would emerge whole or irrevocably shattered. And just as I was about to voice my next step, a crashing noise shattered the silence of the night, a sound that seemed to herald the arrival of yet more chaos. We spun as one, dread welling, and there, lurching onto the scene, stood a figure cloaked in darkness. Someone I never expected to see again. The figure stepped into the faint light spilling from the porch, sharp features coming into view, and my heart dropped like a stone. It was Jack, Paul's brother. I had hardly seen him since the funeral, each encounter cloaked in awkward tension and unspoken grief. But now it was as if the very air shifted with anticipation, waiting for the spark that would set us ablaze. "What are you doing here?" I managed to stammer, a mix of surprise and instinctive defensiveness in my voice. My fists tightened around the letter still crumpled in my grip, as if it could shield me from the storm brewing. Jack's eyes flickered with concern before determination set his jaw. "I need to talk to you. All of you." He gestured toward Sarah, who remained rooted beside me, the mix of fear and uncertainty painting her expression. "About what?" she challenged, taking a small step forward, a silent symbol of unbreakable loyalty. "If this is about the estate, we don't need no." "It's not just about that," Jack interrupted, urgency bubbling under his calm facade. "It's about what Paul was caught up in. I heard things he never told you, things that might put you in danger." The words hung between us like a swing paused in mid-arch, teetering ominously. David stood back, seemingly swallowed by the night, ready to assess but unable to engage. Though his presence was a comfort, a part of me wished for solitude to process the whirlwind we found ourselves in. "Did you know he was involved in something dangerous?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, a thousand thoughts racing through my mind, each dragging the next into the depths of dread. Jack didn't flinch. He was investigating something that could bring down powerful people. I didn't want to believe it at first. I thought Paul was just acting paranoid, but you need to trust me. I didn't come here to hurt you. I came because I believe you're in danger now that he's gone. You expect us to just take your word for it? Sarah shot back fiercely. What proof do you have? For all we know, you could be the one who— Sarah, stop, I implored, trying to rein in her fighting spirit before it consumed her hope. Let him speak. Jack took a measured breath. I found something hidden in the Attica box full of files. Documents that show not just what he was investigating but also the people involved. If I hadn't come here, they might have come for you. They're not just going to let this go. I exchanged a glance with Sarah, uncertainty spiraling as threats lurked around every corner. My mind raced with questions and instinctual dread clawed at my throat. "And you expect us to go to the attic now? In the dark?" "Yes," Jack said, his conviction solid, his resolve cutting through the tension. "We don't have much time. I heard something tonight. It's not safe for any of us here." If Paul's connections were as dangerous as he thought, those words settled like heavy stones, sinking into the depths of my gut. I had always viewed family gatherings, once a source of comfort, as a sign of unconditional love. But now this sense of unity felt razor thin, as if it could shred under the weight of truth or betrayal. As I stood there, the night closed around us, the world outside a mere murmur compared to the tumult within. I felt the pulse of uncertainty in the air, crackling like the storm before a fierce rain. I had learned so much yet so little: how to navigate through grief while dumpster diving through danger. "Let's go," I finally said, my voice more steadfast than I felt. A strange calm washed over me, blending with resolve to protect what remained of our fragile lives. The three of us moved toward the old house, Jack guiding us through shadows that whispered secrets of its own buried past. The darkness enveloped us like a familiar cloak, yet it felt entirely foreign, charged with the possibilities of hidden truths and revelations waiting to be uncovered. The attic door creaked open with a haunting reluctance, dust motes swirling through the shaft of light we brought with us. Boxes piled high, memories forgotten within their confines, each a witness to the moments that had. Furled like faded pages in a book. My heart raced as Jack led us closer, Each step a reminder that the past was about to collide with the present in a way I could never have anticipated. As we sorted through the debris of a life once vibrant yet now tinged with shadows, I felt the familiar gnawing in my stomach. The letter crumpled in my hand felt heavier than the secrets resting in the dust-cloaked boxes, a manifestation of the tangled mess. But amidst our search, as I rummaged through faded photographs and the remnants of invoked laughter, something caught my eye: a small envelope tucked in a corner, stamped and marked with Paul's handwriting. My breath caught again. An urgency prickled my skin as I reached for it, sensing that this might be the thread we were meant to pull. As I tore it open, anticipation fluttered violently inside my chest. The message within carried a weight that transcended paper. It was imbued with something potent, something irrevocably tied to our future, potentially our end. It read, "If you're reading this, it means I'm afraid of what's coming. Trust no one, not even family." And just as the chill of those words settled in, Jack's phone buzzed violently in the silencia, harbinger of the storm threatening to break. My heart skidded to a halt. I knew, in that dread-soaked moment of foreboding, that the night was far from over, and we had only just begun to peel back the layers of what lay ahead. The envelope slid from my fingertips, its contents spiraling down toward the dust-covered floorboards as if the words had been too heavy to bear. I caught it just before it landed, my fingers trembling over Paul's messy scrawl. It felt like his hand brushed against mine, a ghost whispering from the past, urging me to decipher the message hidden within. A silence so profound settled in the attic, punctuated only by the distant rustle of trees outside, as if they too were listening in on our unfolding drama. My heart thundered loudly in my ears, drowning out the whispers of doubt blossoming in my mind. Jack's phone continued to buzz, sending shivers of apprehension rippling through the air. Yet all I could focus on was the weight of Paul's warning. Trust no one, not even family. The words twisted in my mind like a serpent coiling tighter. I looked up at Jack, who monitored me cautiously, the flickering light casting shadows across his worried features. Was he sincere? Or was he one more player in a game unfolding beyond my understanding? "Did you know he wrote this?" I asked, my voice steady enough to push through the hush that enveloped us. Jack shook his head vehemently, an urgency igniting his compelling blue eyes. "No, but he was scared. I had my suspicions. He was unraveling threads that led to people who'd killed to keep their secrets hidden. The night he died, he was on the brink of something. BG could feel it. Beneath the spirals of confusion lay a growing ember of anger. Then why didn't you warn me sooner? Why didn't you tell me about this after the funeral?" The vulnerability in Jack's eyes flickered like a candle in the wind. "I didn't know who to trust. The truth is murky, and I've been trying to piece it together myself. After the accident, everything was chaotic. I've doubted myself every moment since. I thought it was just grief clouding my judgment until I found more." Sarah stepped in, her voice a wall of defensive steel. "And how do we know you're not part of this? How do we know Paul wasn't right?" Before Jack could respond, a sound punctuated the air: a thud against the stairs, harsh and jarring. We exchanged panicked glances. "The night had teeth and it growled." "We need to hide the evidence," I said, my voice picking up urgency as adrenaline coursed through me. "If someone's coming, we need to make sure they don't find what we've discovered." We scattered, a desperate scramble around the attic. Jack swiftly closed the attic door while Sarah tucked the envelope deep into her pocket, like a secret still whispered beneath layers of doubt. A creak in the floorboards jolted my heart again, louder this time, as I dropped to my knees to push aside a tattered blanket covering a trunk labeled with faded letters. "Help me," I hissed, every instinct tunneling into survival. Every shadow now felt alive, as though the darkness conspired against us. Jack rushed to my side, quickly lifting the trunk's lid. Inside were stacks of more documents, photographs, and a small black journal, all untouched by time yet layered with dust like the echoes of the past. "See, this is what I found," he whispered just as a loud crash resonated from somewhere below. "Whatever it is, we need to get rid of it," I urged urgently, feeling the sweat trickle down my spine. The memories that rattled in front of me now transformed from mere artifacts to potential weapons that could turn against us. Sarah's eyes darted between Jack and me, her expression a mix of fear and resolve. What if we're being watched? What if he was right, and we're in a labyrinth with the walls closing in? The storm of emotion struck a chord deep within me. Everyone I loved was weighed down by the grief of loss, and now that burden was morphing into a new kind of danger. We have to stick together. No matter what this leads to, we can handle it together. Jack nodded, the clarity in his eyes returning, although apprehension lingered. If we can find out who is powerful enough to silence Paul, we can expose them. But we need to be cautious. We don't know who is still loyal to him. As we started to separate the contents of the trunk, I felt a flicker of hope but also dread. What else had Paul hidden? What would it mean for our fragile unity? The tension escalated as I opened the journal. Pages were filled with hastily scribbled notes, cryptic phrases hinting at a much darker web of deceit than we could imagine. Before I could process it all, Jack's phone buzzed again, electrifying the room with an ominous urgency. He glanced at the screen, his face draining of color. We need to go. Now. Just as he took a step toward the door, it flew open with a loud bang, and a figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, a haunting presence framed by the attic's dim light. I froze, fear rooting me to the floor, breaths hitching in our throats as the reality of our choices crashed down around us. The danger that had loomed over us for so long coalesced into that moment, revealing a specter of potential betrayal, mistrust, and the painful fracture of our tight-knit existence. Looking for something? The figure said, stepping into the light and revealing a face I had not seen in years but would never forget, the last person I ever expected to see here. A reminder of the dark secrets binding us all. The air thickened with the weight of disbelief as my eyes adjusted to the figure standing in the doorway. My heart pounded, leaving me breathless. The world around me faded, leaving only the specter of the pasta face that spawned memories I had buried deep and hoped never to unearth. Rebecca, he said, breath soft yet laced with accusation. It's been a long time. I had expected shadows to manifest in uncomfortable ways, but never like this. Paul's estranged brother, Daniel, stood before us, a man who had been a part of my life when all our paths had intertwined but became estranged the moment Paul and I said I do. He carried the weight of unresolved grievances, of family secrets that now clung to the air like the musty scent of the attic. What are you doing here? Jack's voice cut through the thick silence, a protective edge sharpening his tone. Behind him, Sarah pressed her back against the wall, her breath hitching. I came to see the last of my brother's things, Daniel said, stepping forward with a calculated grace that belied the storm flickering dangerously behind his eyes. But it seems you've stumbled upon something far more interesting. Daniel's gaze flickered to the trunk, and I could feel a cold knot of dread settle in the pit of my stomach. Had we already played our cards too early? My instincts screamed at meth. Unresolved tension crackled in the air, a taut line that could snap at any moment. What do you want, Daniel? I challenged, though my voice quivered like a candle caught in a sudden draft. You didn't care about Paul when he was alive. What's changed? His lips curled into a sardonic smile that made the hair on my neck stand on end. Ah, there's the Rebecca I remember. Always the fighter. But the truth is, I've come to collect what's rightfully mine. The secrets Paul carried die with him, but the legacy, well, that stands in a new light. It was as if the walls of the attic began to close in, trapping us in this uneasy confrontation. I exchanged glances with Jack, who clasped his fists by his side, and Sarah's eyes widened with fear, an unspoken bond of solidarity amidst the unraveling tension. You don't know what you're dealing with, Jack warned, his anger palpable. Paul found something dangerous. You think you can just waltz in here and claim ownership over his life? Ownership? Daniel laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the attic. What makes you think I haven't been watching? Paul's notes hint at things only I understand. You're stepping into a minefield of family secrets that could bury you alive. My heart raced, uncertainty swirling around me like the dust motes caught in the dim light. Why had he come? Was it solely for the documents, or was it for vengeance? I could see the storm brewing in his eyes, a determination that sent chills racing down my spine. Just let us go, Daniel, I spoke, my voice shaking but firm. You don't want to do this. Whatever it is you're after, you can't. Stakes are too high. He tilted his head as if considering my words, the tension palpable in every breath. And what do you know of stakes, Rebecca? You've lived a charmed existence behind your white picket fence. But now you stand on the precipice of something grander. Are you ready to dive into the darkness? In that moment, the true weight of Paul's warnings began to settle like lead in my stomach, morphed into an uneasy realization we weren't just navigating family secrets. We were embroiled in something far more sinister. Then the muffled thud of footsteps echoed from downstairs, sending my heart skidding into overdrive. Faces turned towards the open doorway, dual expressions of panic etched in the autumn light that loomed like a spirit in anger. "Who else is here?" Jack hissed, urgency bubbling to the surface like a frothing tide. It was a question that hung heavily in the air, his eyes darting between Sarah and me for answers we did not possess. "Looks like we have company." Daniel stepped back from the threshold, a smirk masking his fear. "But I'd save your breath if I were you. Walls talk, and right now you're the centerpiece of a play you never auditioned for." His threat lingered, ringing in my ears even as footsteps approached the bottom of the stairs. The tense atmosphere vibrated with unspoken confessions and weighted decisions. Each second stretched into eternity as we hovered on the edge of discovery and potential ruin. Then, as if to shatter the fragile thread of unity we'd built, Daniel leaned against the doorframe, eyes glinting with malice. "Perhaps trust truly is a rare gem in strained family bonds. What do you think, Rebecca? Are you willing to take that leap? Or should I prepare for another surprise?" The figure above us drew closer, footsteps resonating with a sinister inevitability, the air crackling with tension thicker than fog. There would be no easy way out of this labyrinth we had unwittingly stumbled into. And just like that, the specter of violence transformed our already frail safety into an ember about to ignite a moment away from consuming everything we held dear. My heart sank deeper as the realization hit me like a lightning bolt. Who else had Paul trusted? And could that trust lead us to our salvation or our demise? As the footsteps grew closer, the fear that had been coiling inside me unraveled, weighing heavy and suffocating. I glanced at Jack. His features were taut, brow furrowed in silent contemplation, determination lingering in his blue eyes. Sarah, visibly trembling, held on to me as if I could shield her from the impending storm. What if Daniel was right? What if the trust Paul had once placed in others was misplaced? The shadows of the attic seemed to deepen, leaving whispers of doubt in their wake. "Maybe we can reason with him," Jack said quietly, leaning closer, his voice barely a murmur beneath the din of our racing hearts. "If we can just get Daniel to listen? Daniel scoffed, his eyes dancing with mockery. "Why would I listen to you? You're just a thread in this tapestry of betrayal and deceit, and it's unraveling by the moment." "The clock is ticking, Rebecca." The footsteps stopped abruptly, and silence engulfed us, the pregnant tension thickening the air. Every breath felt like a shallow gasp, fraught with anxiety and anticipation. My thoughts raced, a chaotic whirlwind of fear and memories of Paul's warnings. In his last few weeks he had talked in riddles about trust and betrayal, hinting at shadows lurking in places even he could not fathom. Then, just as I turned to gather my resolve, an unexpected voice pierced the silence, sending a chill racing down my spine. "Daniel, what's going on up there?" The voice was laced with authority, but I could sense the quiver beneath its surface. Jack and I exchanged another look of alarm. Who was it? What more could we possibly face? "Ah, the law enforcers," Daniel replied, eyes glittering with amusement, betraying no hints of anxiety. "Just a little family reunion, come to claim a legacy filled with secrets, lies, and treasures." My breath caught in my throat as the figure from downstairs now surged into view. A tall woman, her frame illuminated by the hallway light. Detective Moore, the investigator who had once worked with Paul. I hadn't seen her since the funeral. "Detective," I finally managed, trying to steady my racing heart. I can see that, Rebecca." She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing as they assessed the atmosphere heavy with unresolved tension. "Daniel, you need to leave." "Now how charming," Daniel returned, a cruel smile playing at the corner of his lips. "What's the matter, detective? Afraid of what I might reveal?" He straightened, puffing his chest out slightly as if preparing for a duel. "Or perhaps worried about what your dear friend Paul entrusted to me." The detective's gaze hardened, and I could sense the bitterness in the air as unspoken rifts unfolded around us like an intricate tapestry woven with doubt and crossed allegiances. "Trust is a fragile thing, Daniel," she said, her tone clipped yet carefully measured. "You should know better than to play with fire." But before Daniel could respond, there came another voice from behind her, this one higher, trembling, and all too familiar. "Mom?" I turned like clockwork, dread tumbling over hope as I realized who it was. My daughter, Lily, was standing at the foot of the stairs, Confusion etched across her tender features. "What's happening?" she asked, her small frame swallowed by the vastness of the shadows descending over us. "Lily," I called, my heart splintering at the sight of her innocence thrust into this ugly confrontation. Panic clawed at my throat as I stepped toward her. "What are you doing here? I came to find you." I heard voices. She shifted, her gaze darting between the strangers and the troubled faces of her mother and Jack. "What's wrong?" The room seemed to shrink, the air thick with an unshakable tension that told me this was only the beginning. The weight of Daniel's presence loomed, fully aware of the disruption he had created. "Sweetheart, you need to go back downstairs," I urged. But the urge to protect her was overshadowed by an icy dread. "No." She stood firm, small fists balled at her sides, embodying an unyielding courage that took me by surprise. "I want to stay with you." "What's going on? Who is he?" Her innocent inquiry was like a puzzle piece clicked into place, sending ripples of vulnerability through my heart. In that moment, I felt the ground shift beneath us, as if everything we knew was being pulled away into the undercurrents of an uncharted sea. "Don't worry about it, Lily." I began, only to be cut off by Daniel, who took a step forward, his voice dripping with deceit. "Oh, let her stay. The more the merrier. It seems she's the only one in this room without blood on her hands." His malicious grin revealed a shard of something darker lurking behind his facade of charm. "Step back, Daniel," Jack growled, angling himself between Lily and the impending threat. "Come now, Jack. Don't act like you care." Daniel's gaze shifted to Lily, a predatory glint sparking within his eyes. "Children are resilient. They adapt to the truth. How fun it would be to show her just how crooked her parents are." "Enough," Detective Moore interjected, stepping forward with authority that cut through the chaos. "I will not have you frightening a child." A tense silence enveloped us as the stakes climbed higher, pressing down on my chest with insistent weight. The question hung heavily in the air. What secrets did Paul leave behind? And how deep did the scars of our past run? As we held our collective breaths, a single thought raced through my mind, tearing open emotional wounds I had thought healed. I hadn't just lost my husband. I was now on the brink of losing everything that had once made me feel whole. "Lily," I said softly, attempting to mask the growing fear brewing inside me. "Can you do something for me?" "Anything, Mom," she replied, her innocence juxtaposed against the acrid tension spiraling dangerously close. "Go back downstairs and find Grandma. Comfort her. She might be worried." Lily hesitated, her brow furrowing as she searched my eyes, desperately looking for assurance. "But I want to stay with you," she pleaded, the strength of her childlike innocence radiating over the gathered darkness. "I know," I whispered, my heart breaking with the pain of choosing safety over togetherness. "I promise I'll be right there." As she reluctantly turned to leave, uncertainty and dozens of questions coursed through my mind. What would become of us after this? Then, just as Lily reached the doorframe, Daniel spoke again, turning the air electric with a shocking truth that left us all reeling. "Ah, dear Lily, before you go, perhaps I should tell you about your father's missing notebook." In that haunting moment, the very foundations of the secrets we had sought to protect began to tremble, and I felt the weight of impending revelations bear down hard. A new wave of dread pulsed through me, igniting desperate fears that this journey would bring far more darkness than light. I could only stand frozen, heart racing, as the ground shifted beneath our fragile world. The air hung thick with tension, as if every breath I took held the weight of Daniel's revelation. My thoughts spiraled wildly, grasping at straws while the shadows loomed larger, filled with uncertainty and painful echoes of my past. The word notebook resonated like a death knell in my mind, threatening to unravel whatever fragile strands of understanding I had managed to cling to since Paul's passing. "Lily, go!" I shouted, desperately trying to mask the fear vibrating in my voice. Jack's protective stance intensified, and I felt paralyzed, caught between a faceless danger and the very embodiment of my greatest joy, who stood just a few steps away. "No!" my daughter exclaimed, taking a brave step back into the room, her defiance striking against the oppressive atmosphere. "I want to know." "Trust me, sweetheart, you don't want to." I held her gaze, pleading for comprehension, for her to sense the imminent threat. Her small hands wrung together, inner turmoil bubbling beneath her calm demeanor. "Enough games, Daniel." Jack's voice broke through, firm and unyielding. The fierce determination in his eyes felt like a shield against the chaos erupting around us. "We came to taco, we're talking," Daniel exclaimed, his laugh a warped echo that filled the attic with manic energy. "We're just discussing the edge of a very dangerous cliff, Jack. And Rebecca dear, it seems like you're standing precariously close to falling over." Detective Moore advanced nearer, her expression hardening as she assessed Daniel with cold skepticism. "You may think this a game, but I assure you it's anything but. Taking advantage of a child's naivety is where I draw the line." But Daniel shrugged her concern off like water off a duck's back. "Children are means to an end, detective. They are the best bearers of our truths, whether happy or haunting." In that moment I saw Daniel not as a man but as a reckoning. The ripple of instinctive fear morphed to a deeper dread, reminding me of all that I had tried to protect Lily from. This fear, familial connections tethered to all the shadows of betrayal, now intertwined in this singular confrontation over truths too painful to confront. "Why are you doing this?" I forced out, gripping Lily's hand tighter as the fright coursed through us. "Because, dear Rebecca," he began, eyes sparkling with malice, "the truth, as they say, will set you free. Once you know, you can no longer claim ignorance. And that notebook holds the key. Did you really believe Paul left you with nothing?" The room seemed to pulse, air thick with unheard confessions and obscure fears. I felt the weight of past decisions closing in, stifling every plea I wanted to voice. Suddenly a thought struck me, blinding. "Do you really have the notebook?" I asked, incredulous, heart clenched tightly in my chest. "Such a fantastic question," Daniel replied, delight dancing on his features. "I do. And it might just contain the very answers you've sought since he left this world." I turned to Detective Moore, searching for answers in her resolute gaze. "Can we call for backup? We need to get him out of this." I gestured around us wildly. "Before he does any more damage." "No, we can't. Not until we know the truth," Daniel interjected, an unsettling eagerness glinting in his eye. "You all have to decide. Are you willing to hear what's in that notebook? Because once you pull on that thread, dear Rebecca, there's no turning back." The clock was ticking. Amidst my chaotic emotions, a flicker of hope sparked a recognition that perhaps the truth could act as a balm in this cruel storm. What if we promised to listen? The words slipped out before I had time to think them through. "Just show us what it says and we can figure this out." Daniel's smirk faded into something thoughtful, contemplating my offer. "A very interesting perspective, Rebecca. Promises such fragile things." The atmosphere shifted, an electrical charge buzzing in the air, impossibly thick with panic and anticipatory hope. "If you still think trusting him is a good idea, then you haven't grasped the danger here." Detective Moore's voice was firm yet filled with deep-seated worry. "Every moment wasted here only buys us more trouble," Jack added, stepping closer, the fire of his resolve shining through. "Show us," I urged, desperation tinged with a flicker of courage. "Let us see what it is you hold over, user, else leave us in peace." His laughter echoed like shattering glass, sharp and tense. "Very well," he finally declared, his eyes gleaming like a predator's. "But remember, dear Rebecca, it's a dangerous game you're playing. And in games like these, holding on to hope could cripple you." As the tension mounted, we stood on the brink of something profound, something that fluttered dangerously between revelation and ruin. How much darkness could one family hold? How many secrets had Paul kept hidden, locked away, waiting for the precise moment to surface? Just as I felt hoisted between dread and the desire for truth, the attic door swung open once again, and a new figure stepped through the threshold, gripping a phone tightly in one hand. "Rebecca! Jack! Is everything okay?" My heart dropped as I recognized Claire, my estranged sister, her voice already casting shadows of an unresolved past. In that moment, with Daniel watching closely, the fabric of our family history frayed at its edges, threatening to unravel completely. In the silence that followed, a palpable weight settled between us all, an unsaid truth hanging in the air that could redefine us forever. And I was well aware that the storm was only beginning. I could feel my heart thundering in my chest as Claire's presence filled the room, a ghost of our past re-emerging. Just as things felt on the brink of exposure, the attic felt even smaller now, the walls closing in further with every tick of my pulse. "What's going on here?" she asked, confusion and concern brightening her eyes as she took in the charged atmosphere, eyes darting between Daniel, Jack, Sarah, and me. "Nothing you need to concern yourself with, Claire," Daniel replied, an unsettling ease in his voice. His expression revealed nothing, but I could feel the malice beneath his calm exterior, a predator in our midst. Everything is on the line right now, Claire, I said, unable to keep the urgency from my voice. What are you doing here? Her brow furrowed, lips pressed together tightly as she scrutinized our faces. I was worried after your message. I thought we weren't supposed to talk about things. The implication of her words draped over us like a shroud. Just the thought of our tangled past made my insides twist. Probably because you've left us all wondering where your loyalties lie, Daniel chimed in, dark amusement radiating off him like heat from a fire. But I'm sure you're here just to poke your head in on your dear sister's disarray. Shut up, Daniel, I snapped, defensive instinct flaring to life. This isn't the time. My eyes met Claire's, trying to convey the importance of the moment while keeping the swirling doubts at bay. You can't imagine what we've uncovered. What's at stake? Like a family reunion of treachery? She replied, steely resolve edging her voice as she adjusted her stance. You don't know what I've had to endure since Paul died. The questions, the whispers before I could say anything. The air shifted once again. A new weight pressing down on us that froze my entire being. In retrospect, it was a fleeting memento warning disguised as a heartbeat. An omen that swept through the thin attic walls and gripped us all tighter. Daniel took a step back, his amusement melting away, replaced by a dark resolve. You don't really think it was just an accident, do you? Silence blanketed the room, thickening with each passing breath. The question lingered, its insidious nature curling around my heart like barbed wire. How could everything I thought I knew crumble so quickly? You bastard! Jack shouted, fists clenching as anger radiated from Hyman, anchor of rage amidst the tempest encircling us. You dare suggest that Paul was anything but a loving brother? But there was a truth, a bone-chilling realization that hung in the air like a guillotine. The more Daniel spoke, the clearer it became. He knew things we had yet to fathom. Perhaps it's time you all opened your eyes, Daniel said with a disconcerting calm. The notebook isn't just a collection of notes, it's a ledger of sins. And those sins belong to families whose secrets hide in shadows darker than you can imagine. Jack's voice was low and hard. I will not let you manipulate this family any longer. Oh, Jack, Daniel mocked, his cool demeanor slipping ever so slightly. Manipulation is a mere pastime. The world we are locked in is one of unchecked power dynamics and hidden truths. Every player meticulously revealed. You have no idea who the real puppeteers are. Then show us what you mean, Claire said suddenly, stepping forward with a flicker of courage that surprised me. Our estranged history rattled in the backdrop, weighing her words with a mix of apprehension and determination I hadn't expected from her. If you've got pieces to unveil, let's see them. Daniel's eyes flared with intrigue, and then he cast a glance toward me, frustration writhing beneath the surface. He looked like a man plotting his next move, each gesture deliberate. Very well, he said slowly, dragging the tension into the room like fog. Well, play the show and tell game. But be warned, what I reveal may shatter your understanding of loyalty and family. I felt Jack's hand silently slip onto mine, our fingers intertwining with a sense of shared determination. But as I gazed into Daniel's calculating eyes, a sense of dread curled around the edges of my heart. I could have sworn I could hear the heartbeats of the others thumping in time with my own, the frantic rhythm of a family spiraling toward a convergence of secrets, fear, and impending doom. So you want the truth, do you? Daniel said. His voice was hypnotic, barely raised above a whisper, weaving through the air like a spell. The notebook holds the key to uncovering every clandestine affair, every whisper of deceit, every staggering betrayal. Just remember the words. Trust no one. As if the very mention of trust ignited the spirit of uneasy anticipation, the attic door creaked open, a mere crack against the shroud of hidden knowledge. Let me show you exactly what I mean. The air changed once more, a rush of energy sparking through the room as he stepped back into shadows, revealing the outlines of more secrets. With each step into the unknown, the weight of my memories pressed into me, memories of love intertwined with mistrust, of laughter tinged with betrayal. In that moment I realized that every revelation, every bitter truth unraveling before us could either tether us together as a family once more or tear us apart into shards too fine to collect. What came next would determine everything. Fate had led us here, each bitter encounter, every pointed word bringing us to this precipice of change, and I could feel us teetering on the edge of something vast, a chasm where darkness intermingled with shards of fleeting hope. Just as the truth threatened to break free and alter our destinies, I could hear Daniel whispering the quietest truth into the air, words imbued with ominous prophecy. Everything has a cost. Are you willing to pay it? And just like that, I found my Futinga silent, powerful resolve emerging from the chaos, the realization that we could not only face the darkness but emerge from it hand in hand, forever changed. Because at the core of every heart-wrenching truth lay the undeniable strength of love and familial bonds, the shimmering glimmer of hope in a world wrapped in shadows. I could feel it deep within echoes of his laughter, a reminder that love transcends even the deepest betrayals, binding us together in a way that would ultimately guide us home. And so it was with a newfound strength and clarity that I spoke, an emotional surge igniting my voice. Show us the truth, Daniel. We are ready. As the shadows deepened, the cacophony of our heartbeats merged, forming a symphony of resilience against the backdrop of what was to come. The final act awaited us, and together we would face it, armed with unwavering spirit and love forged anew in the fires of despair. Because sometimes the darkest moments reveal the brightest truths. It is the light that leads us back to the surface and helps us reclaim the love that forever binds us together. And together, we would emerge anew from the tempest.